So Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So welcome you all for today's evening IYS session. So before we begin, I'd like to introduce Anuttama Mataji. So Anuttama Gandharvika Mataji. So she is a very multi-talented person. She has done her post-graduation in mass communication, and she has pursued diploma in interior designing, and she now owns her own interior design company. And she actively participates in book distribution every year, and she organizes Damodar program in temple, schools, market areas, in her apartment. uh, and then during the COVID time, she also cooked and distributed, she and her husband, like they cooked and distributed prasadam to COVID affected families in Chennai. So Mataji is that way very she has this natural tendency to help people, and she also stitches deity dresses for the devotees. So they and then she conducts online Bhagavad Gita classes now. So, and apart from this, she is also involved in preaching to deaf devotees. There are a group of deaf devotees, and she preaches Bhagavad Gita classes. And for this, she is pursuing her basic course in Indian Sign Language. That is the language for the deaf. So Mataji has been very actively doing this service very dedicatedly. She started this in December 2020, and now just for this service of preaching to the deaf, she has now started to pursue this degree. So, and she has two wonderful children, Adikeshav, he is in 11th grade, and Adya, she's in 7th grade. So Mataji is that way, doing all her best to engage the children in devotional activities. They are very good in their academics as well. So we are very happy to have you here, Mataji. So you can pass on your enthusiasm and you can help us to motivate. So thank you, Mataji, for uh, coming to IYS. And so IYS is a ISKCON Youth Services Girls Wing in ISKCON Chennai. So we conduct classes every Saturday. So we pick up contemporary topics, like something that is, some challenges that people are facing in their day-to-day life. So we take such topics and we see how we can overcome it using the scriptures. So we see the solution through the Vedic perspective. So we are very happy to have you all here today. So in case you're not part of our WhatsApp group, you can join us, so you will get a regular notification about our activities. And we are there in Telegram as well. And all the sessions are there in YouTube. So you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and see the session. So with no further ado, over to you, Anuttama Mataji. So looking forward to hear from you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Nitya Mataji. And first of all, I'd like to extend my heartful thanks, heartful gratitude for calling me over among the IYS girls. I've always heard about the IYS girls, but never had the opportunity to interact with them. So now today, with the Guru Maharaj and Krishna's mercy, I am getting an opportunity to interact with you all. So I'm feeling very, very blessed and very happy to be here taking this session today. And so I'll be trying my level best to share whatever knowledge I have gathered by Lord's mercy to share with all of you today. So as you all are knowing that what is the topic today, that we are talking about the negative thoughts, we are talking about positive thoughts. So our aim is always, it is quite understood that we are always aiming from moving from negative thoughts to positive thoughts, because that is what makes our life fulfilling, right? None of us wants to be negative in life. We all want to be healthy, positive individuals. And this is what our aim is for today's session, that by the end of this session that you have some takeaways in the form of being a little more positive than you are today. I'm not saying you're not positive, since you are part of the IYS girls, so definitely you'll be all charged up in positivity. But definitely, if I'm talking about myself also, there are not opportunities that I'm positive all the time. Because of the current scenario that we are in, we are living in a world where, we are constantly facing challenges about so many things. It's a competitive world. And always there are people who are, trying to pull us down also. There are all kinds of people in the world. So it's very easy to get negative in today's scenario, right? So we'll begin this session. And first of all, I'd like to offer my prayers. So, Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swabhadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sadhana Sarvaghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhuvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padana Sahalalita Vishakha Vitansha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hari Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna to all the assembled devotees here, and please forgive my offenses. If I am doing any mistakes, any offenses that I am doing, kindly forgive me. So let's begin today's session. And as I had said that we are talking about negative emotions. So here I have prepared a small presentation and which I'll be sharing with you. And of course, we will be also talking about our scriptures. So let's roll on. So as you can see, there is a slide here. And the topic that we are covering today is unblock, unfollow, unfriend your negative thoughts and emotions. So what can you see in this picture? There is a human being, there is a person, and there is another person sitting inside our brain, inside our mind, who's trying to drive our mind. So that person, which is a small person sitting inside, is the representative of our mind. Our mind is driving us, whether in whichever direction, whether it is positive or negative, but it is the mind which is driving us. So this is like a pictorial representation of how our human mind is working. And above that, there is a statement written. The mind is such a thing that it makes heaven out of hell and hell out of heaven. Now, what can this statement possibly mean? So here are two parts to it. One is heaven out of hell. So let's take a situation where, a person is in a very heavenly position, right? So a person is living in a position where the condition of his living are very hellish. It could be any scenario. Person is not happy, he's frustrated, and he's like a hell. Like, because if we come to the examples, we can probably understand better. But because of his mindset, he can convert that hellish position, material hellish position, into heaven position. In the sense that although the circumstances around him are very hellish, yet it is because of his positive mindset, he can make that, he can make his living as very heavenly. On the contrary, there is a person who has all the opulences, all the support, all the material. His material arrangement is such that he is living in a very heavenly state. Somebody who's very rich. He has all the opulences, servants, and no dearth of money. Yet his mind is such that he's absolutely living in a hellish condition. So actually, everything is coming from our mind. We have a certain position, we have a certain environment where we are given by Krishna, an arrangement where we are very happy. We have all the things in the world, yet our mind is such that it is not letting me enjoy or not letting me feel the heaven out of it. We are making hell out of that. Whereas there is a person who is not having anything, probably he is very poor, he is also in a very tough situation, yet he is not disappointed, he is very happy, he is very positive about the entire thing. So that is what we mean by making a heaven out of hell and hell out of heaven. So here today, in order to take this session further and see the statement, how it fits into two very great, very famous personalities, which comes from our scriptures. I have picked up two famous personalities whom we are going to study considering this statement, how somebody can make heaven out of hell, and there's another person who can make hell out of heaven. So let's understand those two people. So the first person I'm going to talk about is Kunti Devi. So I'm not sure if all of you have read about Kunti Devi. So there is a brief introduction. Kunti was the daughter of Maharaj Shursen, and she was the sister of Krishna's father, Vasudeva. In fact, Kunti was adopted by Maharaja Kunti Bhoj, and that is how, she gets her name, Kunti. So once what happened that there's a famous, very powerful sage, Durvasa Muni, who happened to come to the kingdom, and, Kunti Maharani served her. She was a very young girl at that time. So she served Durvasa Muni, and Durvasa Muni was very happy with her service. And as a boon, he gave her a mantra. By that mantra, she could invoke any of the demigods. Now, she was a very young girl at that time. You know how we are at young age, we are very inquisitive about so many things. So out of her youthful inquisitiveness, she tried to, she spoke one of the mantras. And in that mantra, she invited the sun god. Now, when the sun god appeared, he insisted on giving her a son. Now, this son was known as Kern. Now, out of fear, obviously, imagine there is a young girl, not married, in her probably 20s, how would she feel? What will her condition be when she sees a newborn baby lying in front of her? She's not even married. So how much of fear there would be in that girl? She cannot discuss with her family. She cannot tell anybody about it. Because always there is a fear that, what will I do? Everybody will say this is an illegitimate child. You would have landed into some illegitimate relationship. So she had no choice. The condition was such, she had no choice. So she picked up the child. She kept the child in a basket, wrapped in the clothes, and she floated the child down the Ganga. Now, years later, Kunti Maharani grew up, and she became a beautiful woman, and she got married to Maharaj Pandu of the Kuru dynasty. Maharaj Pandu also was an exalted personality. However, he left his luxurious palace and he preferred a simple life in the forest with his two queens, Kunti and Madri. So Kunti had another co-sister, her name was Madri. However, in a very tragic incident, a hunting accident happened, and Pandu Maharaj brought upon himself a curse by which sexual intercourse would kill him. Now, the emperor was therefore unable to beget any children. So at that time, Kunti Maharani confided in her husband about the mantra which she got from Durvasa Muni. And Pandu agreed that she and Madri can summon different deities to beget children. Thus, the Pandavas were born. So we know about the Pandavas: Yudhishthir, Bhim, Arjun, Nakul, and Sahadev. So the five children were born to them. But Kunti Maharani's happiness was cut short. One day, what happened? Pandu was attracted by Madri's beauty, the second queen of Pandu Maharaj, and overcome by desire and forgetful of the curse, he tried to embrace her. Now, Kunti Maharani knew, she remembered about the curse, and she tried to stop him. But he passed away in the arms of Madri. Now, in the previous times, there was a ritual that when the husband would die, wife would go and perform sati. She would also burn her or herself along with the husband. So Madri ascended the funeral pyre to follow her husband, and Kunti was left behind, grief-stricken and completely shattered, totally dependent on Lord's mercy. So she had no choice what she would have done in the forest with 5 children. So she decided that she would go back to Hastinapur, where she belonged, where Maharaj Pandu belonged from. He was the king from Hastinapur. So she and her 5 sons reached Hastinapur. Now Pandus from very small age started countering. So if you know the story, we have the Kauravas, where there were 100 brothers. So there is another brother of Pandu Maharaj whose name was Dhritarashtra, and his wife was Gandhari. So Gandhari and Dhritarashtra had 100 children, and the eldest one's name was Duryodhana. So when Pandus, these 5 children, and Kunti Maharani moved to Hastinapur, from very small age, the Pandus faced the animosity of their cousins. So the Kauravas actually were very different mindset people. They were very different in character as such from the Pandus. So Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, both of them were constantly conspiring to kill Pandavas, to torture and to humiliate them. They left no stone unturned in not bringing trouble to the Pandavas and to Kunti Maharani. In one such instance, so there is a long list of incidents through which the Pandavas were put into great trouble. Once Bhim was given a poison in a cake. Once all of them were made to live in a house made of shellac. So shellac actually is highly combustible, it can catch fire very, very fast. And the plan was to burn all of them alive. In another incident, you all would be knowing that Draupadi was dragged out, and attempts were made to insult her by taking away her clothes and stripping her naked in the vicious assembly of the Kurus. Similarly, there was a time when with all this, all these planning and conspiring happened, and the Pandavas were made to go for exile in the forest. And at that time, they had to face this fiery and man-eater demon, Hidimba. But then this didn't finish here. After all these tribulations, all these testing times, there was the great battle of Kurukshetra. I'm sure you all are aware of that. And Pandavas had to face the powerful fighters from all over the world. And at last, when all this was not enough, we had, towards the end of the war, when almost everything was getting over, we had Brahmastra coming in from Ashwatthama. Now, Ashwatthama was the son of Dronacharya. And he shot that, Brahmastra directly in the womb of Uttara. Uttara was the daughter-in-law of Arjun. And she was carrying at that time the last descendant of the Pandus. So with all that, and in fact, of course, needless to say that Krishna was always on their side and Krishna protected him from all the calamities, because Pandavas were completely devoted to Krishna. They had complete surrender to Krishna. They had complete faith in Krishna. In fact, through all these tribulations, all these calamities, they never stopped trusting Krishna. So we are coming back to Kunti Maharani. Kunti was the mother and she was seeing all that happening to her children. So Kunti actually was all the time aware that, Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what happens that once the battle of Kurukshetra ended and Yudhishthir was made the king, and Krishna, started making arrangements to go back to Dwarka. So he had gone up to his chariot. At that time, Kunti Maharani approached Krishna and offered her prayers. So we have a very wonderful book in our ISKCON temple where it is called Teachings of Queen Kunti. And if you ever get a hand of that book, please read. So that book is actually comprises all the prayers which Kunti Maharani offered to Lord Krishna at this moment while he was going back to Dwarka. So in those prayers, she basically, first of all, she felt big separation. For her, Krishna going away back to Dwarka means she felt as if some thunderbolt had hit her, because she was so fond of Krishna. She was so much in connection with Krishna. And, in fact, when she offered her prayers, the prayers are not that, she didn't want to say that, thank you for saving us from calamities. You'll be surprised that the prayer was something totally opposite. You know what she said? She said, oh, Krishna, I want that you should give me more suffering. You should give more calamities. Why? So that we should get a chance to see you again and again. So imagine there is a person, like, look at us, a small incident, small negative thing happening in our life, we are shattered. And here we see Kunti Maharani, one after the other, she's going through so many difficult situations. And at the end of it, what she's saying? She's saying, oh Krishna, give me more calamities, give me more, troubles, so that at least I get a chance to see you again and again. So this was Kunti Maharani. Throughout her difficulties, Kunti always sought shelter of Krishna. Her attitude towards suffering is exemplary. And she stood like a strong support for the Pandavas to her children in all these strong and difficult times. So this was Kunti Maharani. So this is one person, one personality from our scriptures. And let us see another person from scriptures. And the other person is Duryodhana. So Duryodhana is a totally opposite contrast to what we read about Kunti Maharani. So as we read in her description of Kunti Maharani that she got married to Pandu Maharaj. And in fact, Pandu was supposed to become the king because Dhritarashtra, his brother, was blind. However, Pandu was cursed that he would never be able to beget children with his wife. So then he departed to live in the forest, to live a life of a hermit. So as we all know that Kunti and Madari also followed Pandu Maharaj along with him. Meanwhile, Dhritarashtra got children, got 100 children from Gandhari. And at that time, it was expected more or less that Dhritarashtra's son, Duryodhana, would become the king, because it was not sure whether Pandu will ever come back or he will ever have children, who will come and have claim for the throne. So it was all settled that, Maharaj Dhritarashtra had started ruling, and he was grooming Duryodhana to become a king in future. So right from the beginning, we see that the character of Duryodhana was such that he had a different temperament. He was spoiled right from the beginning. All the elders paid a lot of attention to him. He got pampered, and in fact, Dhritarashtra had immense attachment for Duryodhana. And as we know that he was blind, so, he wanted to fulfill all his desires, all his ambitions through Duryodhana. Whatever he could not achieve, whatever, he could not enjoy being a king, he wanted to enjoy through Duryodhana. So he totally pampered Duryodhana. As a result, Duryodhana grew up to be a, spoiled child, and later developed qualities of arrogance and hatred and jealousy. So he expected, everyone to pay attention to him. In fact, many times he was discourteous also to elders, because he was going to be the next king. And everybody tolerated him. They had no choice. And in fact, he believed that, no matter what, I'm there going to be the king. So everybody have to tolerate me. So that was the kind of attitude he had. So then later it turned out that, Pandu had children. He had 5 sons and they were all very much alive. And they have come back to the kingdom. And Yudhishthir in particular and Pandavas in general were so well behaved, so cultured, so courteous, and so respectful that the contrast between them and Kauravas, especially Duryodhana, was very obvious to everyone. And Yudhishthir was very much virtuous, very dharmic. But then Duryodhana thought that at least I am better in strength, because Yudhishthir was not so much in physical strength, not so much in physical prowess, but he was very intelligent. But then somebody else outcast Duryodhana, and that was Bhim. In strength, Bhim was equally strong. And Duryodhana could not digest all this. He thought, I'm a prince. I deserve everything. So slowly he saw that he was no longer the center of attraction. And it might so happen that Yudhishthir might become king, because Yudhishthir had been born slightly earlier than him. So he was elder also. So he also saw that Yudhishthir was so courteous and people started liking him and respecting him. And Duryodhana just could not tolerate all this. He felt that he deserved the kingship. He deserved all the prestige of being the next king. And that was not given to him, and instead was taken away by Pandavas. In fact, Pandavas had no intention of doing so, consciously. They were naturally very virtuous. So naturally, he became envious of the respect that Yudhishthir had, and he became envious of the strength that Bhim had. And then eventually, when they went to the martial academy to train themselves, he saw that Bhim was powerful, right? But Arjun excelled in archery. Arjun was the best student, and that further fueled his envy. Then eventually Draupadi Swayamvar happened, and Duryodhana had expected that he would win her over. But suddenly we see that Pandavas emerged, and Pandavas won Draupadi's hand also. And then his envy went further. Incredible success of the Pandavas was intolerable to Duryodhana. So this pent of envy burst out in the form of dishonoring Draupadi during a gambling match. Lakshagraha episode, sending Pandavas along with Draupadi and Kunti to forest, and finally the brutal Kurukshetra battle. Now we cannot say that Duryodhana's actions, now we've read about his character, and we cannot say that his actions are justified because of his father's or his own ambitions, Duryodhana had a mind of his own. He always had a choice to understand and act wisely. Having envy is justified. We all, to some extent, in current scenario, in Kali Yuga, we are all envious of something or the other in today's scenario, But to manifest that envy in so many barbaric incidents, you cannot justify that, right? So when we see such envy or negative emotion growing within us, we should be on guard and check those negative emotions from growing. Otherwise, who knows that these negative traits one day control us and make us mad and make us do horrible things. So this is our, description of two great people from the scriptures. And so here, let's come back to our presentation. So now can you make out who made heaven out of hell and who made hell out of heaven? So Kunti Maharani made heaven out of hell. She was living in hellish conditions. The kind of circumstances she was into, all alone in the forest with 5 small children, and then coming to Hastinapur and facing the continuous conspiracy and continuous tortures from in the hands of Dhritarashtra and the Kauravas. She was literally, along with the children, living in hellish conditions. And yet, look at the prayers she's offering to Krishna at the end. That give me all this miseries again, Krishna, so that I can see you. And here we have Duryodhana. He had all the opulences. He was a prince. Everything was at his disposal, and yet look at what he has done. Because of his ambition, because of his desire, his characters, he turned. The entire Kuru dynasty, the entire Kauravas were wiped out. because of his desire, because of his ambition. So Duryodhana is the one who's converted his heaven into hell. So I hope this analogy, this with matching this quotation along with our characters from scriptures were understandable. So let's move on. So here there is a verse from Bhagavad Gita 6.6, and here Krishna is telling Arjun that for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind remains the greatest enemy. So here we see that how Kunti Maharani made friends with her mind, and mind was the best friend. Whereas for Duryodhana, his mind was his greatest enemy. Mind made him do things which has changed history. So that is the power of mind. That is the power, what we have in store above us in our brain. Right? So let's move on. So here you can see a screen where we have classified our thoughts. Now, all our thoughts and desires, where are they coming from? Yeah, everything is there in our mind. And so we can classify our thoughts into these 4 categories. So as you can read on the left side, we have a person who is very positive. So what is it when you are positive? You are always happy, you are peaceful, and you're always very contented with life. No matter what situation comes in your life, you're always contented, you're always relaxed. On the contrary, we have another picture. We have a person who is negative minded. So how a negative minded person will behave? He'll be angry, he will be irritated all the time, and he'll be frustrated. He'll be taking out his frustration on other people. After that, we have another set of thoughts. These are called routine thoughts. We are cooking, we are taking a bath, we are cleaning our house, we are working. And so while doing all these activities, our mind is constantly thinking. We are constantly having thoughts. So these are like routine thoughts. And then we come on the other side, we have waste thoughts. Like you go to office or you are going to college, you are attending the lecture, but you're not enjoying the lecture, and you're sitting there and you're daydreaming. Oh, when this lecture will end, when will this mataji giving boring lecture, when will this end? And you start dreaming and your thoughts go somewhere else, there, everywhere. So these are all considered to be waste thoughts. So now looking into all these 4 thoughts, what is our aim? We are aiming on the positive thoughts, because that is the best position one can have to grow as a happy, healthy individual. Positive thoughts is what we all should aim for all the time. All the time means all the time, right? So keeping that in mind, keeping these pictures in mind and the categories in mind, keep them in mind, and let's proceed to our next slide. So as we can read that our mind is here, I have given an analogy that our mind is like a competent software programmer. So a competent software programmer, the mind is simply prompting us towards actions that we have repeatedly done in the past. So now is the age of digital world, and we all have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have WhatsApp, and constantly there is notifications happening. All the time you get alerts. For example, you have visited a restaurant, say 1 week back. So what is Facebook or what Instagram is going to, it's going to pop up signals. Google is going to do that you went to that restaurant, visit again, and have a nice time there, eat good food, enjoy. So what is that Facebook or Instagram trying to do? It is prompting us, it is reminding us, it is repeatedly telling us that you went there in the past, come back again, visit again. So it is telling you to come back again and enjoy it, right? So it actually, like a programmer, it remembers our past choices, what we did. We have multiple options, and it prompts us towards making that choice, similar choice again. because it feels that it is your favorite choice. So similarly, our mind also works in the same way like a software computer programmer. Our mind is constantly telling us, to do certain things which we have always been doing. So if you are a negative person, if you're always sulking, and if you're always sad about certain things in life, like you feel that, no matter what I do, I'm always a failure. So what are you doing? You constantly sending negative signals to your brain that I am a very negative person. I'm a failure. I cannot succeed. So the brain is listening to all that, and it is saying, okay, so it will constantly remind you of those negative things only. Like this, how Facebook apps, because you've gone to the restaurant, because you enjoyed that, so it is reminding you. Similarly, because you're a negative person, it is reminding you that you are a failure, you can't do anything, you are worthless. And what happens that that we feel that this computer program is conscious. We feel that our mind is conscious and is choosing on its own. We may even feel that it's choice and my choice is same. So we think that our mind has a mind of its own, and it's giving me feedback. But mind you, mind is doing what you want it to do. Any point of time you want to change, you can change. That is the power of mind, which we are not aware of. So we need to consciously say no to the default option. We have default settings, right? So we need to change those default settings in our computer and say yes to an alternate option. What is the alternate option? Be positive. And what is the default setting? Be negative. So we have to change from that default option of negativity and change it to the alternate option of being positive. Right? So let's move on. So mind is, constantly, as we just discussed, it's constantly giving us signals. It is actually a storehouse of our emotions. It is like a storehouse. How a storehouse is, it is packed with so many things. As you can see the picture, so many things are stored within us: depression, sadness, failure, stress, anger, tired, frustration, sorrows, grief. And without thinking, we think that they're my ideas. And only when we face some difficulties, we realize, what have I landed myself into? So if one carefully observes the pattern of life, whenever negative thought hits us, you will see your health will go down. Our health is very much directly connected to our thoughts. In fact, all of us, we are women here, and so many of us face the hormonal challenges, the hormonal imbalances. And the doctor says that hormones are directly related to the way we think. If we are sad, if we are always negative, then definitely be ready for hormones disturbances in our body. It is not possible for hormones to be disturbed if we have a healthy mind. If our thoughts are positive, there is no chance that we will ever have hormonal disturbances. Things like thyroid always happens when we are hormonally disturbed, when our mind is disturbed, when we are sad, when we are constantly crying and brooding over some things that is happening in our life. These problems are sure to hit you, right? So we must try to tap the power of our mind. We must understand that here is a mind, and mind should not control me. I should be the one who should be controlling the mind. That is the attitude we need to develop. We need to see, we can see its opinions, sometimes it is said that your mind is compared to a classmate of yours who's constantly nagging you, constantly pulling you, come, you are studying, and come, no, let's go for a movie, let's go for the mall, and let's go to have some chart items. So that is how the mind is. It is constantly pulling you into things which you are not supposed to get into. It is constantly showing you options which you should not. So we should meet its opinions. We should see its opinions. There's nothing wrong in seeing the opinions and examine its deep ideas. As if they're ideas given by some other friend, then it should be our choice whether to accept them or reject them. So that intelligence should be there, whether I want to accept the idea of my brain or whether I don't want to accept the idea of my brain. So here now coming to positive thinking. So if we consciously cultivate this habit of positive thinking, we will become mentally and physically stronger in facing life's ups and downs. Because when we are positive, our body also responds. Charged up all the time and take life's ups and downs. So here I've given two pictures where there's a person who's mourning over the death of another person, and in the lower picture you can see somebody who is having terminal illness. So now one may ask, okay, Mataji is talking a lot about positive thinking. How to be positive in difficult situations like you have lost some loved one, or you have somebody in your family who is suffering with terminal illness? How do you handle those things? How do you try to be positive in those situations, in those negative circumstances? So first of all, we have to be always ready to tackle our mind. So these are some of the options I'm giving you. So first of all, we have to treat that our mind is a separate person and I'm a separate person. So you have to tell your mind jokingly, that thank you for sharing. And then you contemplate over before taking a decision. So that is one thing. And then you have to change or examine your beliefs. You have certain beliefs, you have, certain ideas, as I was discussing in the couple of minutes back, that how you have taken it for granted that I'm a loser. I'm always losing. So that is the belief you have found. So if you want to change, if you want to be a positive person, you have to change, you have to work on that belief. You have to examine. Now, another example I'd like to give here is that what if somebody has hurt you in life? And your belief is, I'm ready to forgive that person, but let him apologize. Now, for your peace of mind, what is important? Saying sorry by him is important, or you forgiving is important. For your peace, see, unless he says sorry, you will not be able to move on in life. So what you have to do, I forgive, irrespective whether that person apologizes to me or not. That is a step towards being positive. So once you do that, you'll be a different person. Your life will change. So what I'm trying to say is you have to examine, you have to think, introspect, and see what your belief system are, how you can change them, how you can bring a change in your own belief systems. Now, as I said in the last slide, that it is not easy when you're facing difficult situations, how somebody you have lost or somebody's having a terminal illness. How can you be positive all the time? Of course, talking about these beliefs and changing them, and it's all fine. But how do you do all these things in tough situations? So it is easy to say that be positive, but one can get tired with this constant struggle of training your mind to forcibly trying to be positive, forcibly trying to think that no, I am positive. So it can actually get very, very tiring at certain point of time. So my dear friends, positive thinking alone does not help for tackling negativities in our life. When we have spiritual knowledge, it enables us to understand the purpose of our existence. And as a result, negativity becomes meaningless. So as we practice Krishna consciousness more and more, you all will be amazed that how our negative thoughts and emotions turn into positive thoughts. So as you can see a picture here, new mindset, new results. So if you have a new mindset that you want to be Krishna conscious, you will see new results in your life. So let's discuss more about how spiritual knowledge, how bringing Krishna into our life can make us a positive person. So Krishna consciousness is a very empowering, purifying, and fulfilling process. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So how does Krishna consciousness or chanting the name of Krishna is empowering? So when we are attentively chanting the holy names of Krishna, Krishna empowers us so that we can tackle our obstinate mind. Our mind is very obstinate. It doesn't get changed so easily. But when we are chanting attentively, when we are listening to Krishna's name attentively, when we're chanting, Krishna empowers us. And very automatically, we can change our obstinate mind. Krishna's name, it purifies us. Just as sunrise drives away all darkness, in that way, Paramatma, Krishna sitting in our heart as Paramatma, drives away all the impurities from our heart. And when there are no impurities, there is just purity. You are a pure soul. What will happen? You will be positive. Then Krishna consciousness is a very fulfilling process. Why? Because Krishna is a reservoir of happiness. So when we connect to Krishna, we automatically become happy. We automatically become positive. So Krishna is our best friend and Krishna is our well-wisher. And the true positive, the true purpose, the true positive purpose of our life is to awake this dormant love of Krishna. We are all eternally servants of Krishna. We are all eternally connected to Krishna. But when we come into this world, we get so attracted by so many material things, all these, shining things around us, that we forget Krishna. So it is said that we are living in this world and it's a place of misery. It is says, Dukhale Mashashrutam. This place, this material world that we are living is temporary and it is a place of miseries. Happiness and sorrows, both are temporary. So if you have that perspective in mind, whenever you are feeling negative, if you just contemplate for a few times and if you think, no, this happiness and sorrow, both are temporary. Sorrows came, they will go away. So I cannot be full of sorrows all the time. There will be a time when happiness will come. And then happiness will also go away. So both are temporary things. With that perspective, if you're constantly contemplating, if you're alert of your emotions, if you're alert of your thoughts, then the coming and going of seasons, as said in Bhagavad Gita, the coming and going of happiness and sorrows will not bother you. And you'll always be in a state of happiness because you're in constant connection with Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita 8.6 declares that our thoughts determine our future in this life as well as next, which means positive thinking is desirable and it is beneficial. So if you are positive, as we discussed, that our body will be healthy. We will not have all those physical problems if we are in a positive state of mind. And how to achieve that positive state of mind is to be Krishna conscious. Because just with our own efforts, we cannot be positive. You can try for some time. You can see there's so many seminars nowadays happening, all, big people taking classes on positive thinking. But that doesn't work permanently. Why? Because the element of spirituality is missing in them. The element of Krishna is missing on them. Krishna is complete. And when we are in connection with Krishna, everything is complete. So if you join positivity along with Krishna consciousness, if you combine your thoughts with Krishna, then you do not have to make any efforts to forcibly try to become positive. You will automatically become a very positive person. So that's the end of our presentation for today. And I hope I could convey some thoughts, discuss about Krishna to some extent, and make some little value, do some value addition in your life. And I hope whosoever has some streak of negativity can throw it away by practicing Krishna consciousness, by chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yeah, so it was a lovely session. So I'm sure it had benefited our audience here, IYS girls. So it was lovely comparing, the troublesome times that Kunti Maharani went through and how Duryodhana, how he acted. So all those really helped us to, how a negative thinking can actually cause a disaster. So hope the session was helpful for all of us. And if there's any question, you can raise your hand. We can unmute you, or you can post it in the chat if there's any comment or question you have.
So can I see people's faces? Everybody's video is off. I don't even, so if I meet you in the temple, I won't even recognize anybody. At least if you have no question, no problem. At least I can have a look at all of you.
Can we all have your darshan, your moonlight faces? If you don't mind, please turn on.
It is not very encouraging to see just names written. Nobody's interested. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Still, I'm more waiting for more videos to be on. Thank you, Tanu, Anu, Pooja, Ishu, Shanti, Vidisha. Still, people are hesitant in putting their videos on. Not interested? So thank you so much for